Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the notes on synthetic division. We've been looking at polynomials, and we have a polynomial right here. It's a cubic. The highest degree is 3, and we want to find the roots. Well, why do we want to find the roots? Well, maybe we want to see the graph of this thing, or again, it's just something that we want to try to find the solutions where it crosses the x-axis. Again, to see what this graph would look like. So, how do we find these solutions? And the process we're going to use is called synthetic division. Okay, which is kind of funny because it has no division at all. Just follow along with me as I show you how to go through this process. The first thing you want to do is you want to look at all of the coefficients of the variable x. For instance, in front of x cubed, there's an x to the, there's a 1 in front of this x cubed. Then we have negative 10 plus 31 minus 30. Let's write these coefficients down. We're going to write 1, negative 10, 31, and negative 30. Okay? Now in front of this, I'm going to put a little, like a right angle kind of thing. And then skipping a line, I'm going to put a line down here. Now this is how we start off synthetic division. What we want to do is we want to find a number and put it inside of here that will help us find the roots of this polynomial. To do this, we need to find the factors of negative 30. So in other words, what numbers multiply to give you negative 30? Let's see. Negative 30. Let's see, there's negative 1 and 30. There's 1 and negative 30. There's negative 2 and 15. There's also 2 and 15, negative 15. And notice I'm writing the same ones, but one of them has to be positive, one has to be negative, because the answer is negative. I got negative 3 and positive 10. 3 and negative 10. See, 4 doesn't work. 5 does. 5 times, negative 5 times 6. And of course, 5 times negative 6. Alright? So these are the factors of negative 30. And these are all possible candidates to put in this little, what I call right angle sort of thing. So let's go ahead and pick a number. And I'll go ahead and start off with an easy one. Let's pick 2. For no other reason, I actually don't remember the answer, so we'll pick 2. Now, what do we do with this? Well, the first thing you want to do, drop this 1 down. So the first one comes down. Now we're going to multiply 2 times 1. 2 times 1 will give us 2. And we'll put it right here underneath the negative 10. Negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. Now, multiply the 2 times the negative 8. 2 times negative 8 will give us negative 16. When you add 31 and negative 16, you'll get 15. 2 times 15 is going to give us 30. And that works out perfectly, ladies and gentlemen, because negative 30 and 30, when you add them together, give you 0. And that's what we want to get. We want to get a 0 here at the end. All right. Now, I'm then going to, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and erase this real quick. And I'm going to put a little box right in front there. And we're going to do synthetic division again. This time using, and we could repeat the number 2, or we could use something different. Now remember, we're trying to pick factors of 30. We already know 2 is a factor of 30. So we're still going to use these numbers. However, look at 15. 30 is no longer a number we're going to consider, or negative 30. 15 we'll consider. 2 doesn't go into 15, so 2's kind of out of it now. 3 still works, but 10 won't. 5 will work, but 6 won't. So you see, we have like half the number now of factors that we can use. Now, you could try any number you want to, but again, be smart about it and go, these numbers are not going to work because 30 doesn't go into 15. All right? So let's, out of the remaining ones that we have here, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Let's pick one. Let's try 1. Why not? One's a simple number to use. So, we'll drop down the first one. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. And then negative 1 times 1 times negative 7 is negative 7. And guess what? That doesn't work. Because this gives us 8. And I want this to be a 0. So, 1 is not a good possibility. You could try negative 1. You could try 15, negative 3, 3, negative 5, and 5. Let's just try 3. It's the next numbers down. And you could try negative 3 if you'd like. Let's drop down the 1 again. 3 times 1 is going to give us 3. Negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5. That's a 5, sorry. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15, and look at that. That gives us 0. Alright, so now we have a negative 5 here, and we're going to do synthetic division one more time, because since this is a cubic equation, it's a degree 3, we know we're going to have 3 answers. Okay? And the factors of 5, well, not going to be 3 and 3, not going to be 15 or negative 15. So really the only choices you have is negative 1, negative 5, and 5. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick 5. Because when I drop down this 1, negative 5 times 1 is 5. And then that'll give me 0. And check that out, ladies and gentlemen. We have our 3 solutions. These are our 3 roots. So, if I asked you to do it, which I might, if I asked you to do it, I could ask you to graph this thing. So let's just do a really quick sketch of this. Ready? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to 2, 3, and 5. So 2, 3, and 5. And since this is a cubic, it's going to start in the third quadrant. It's going to go up, down, up. And that's just what this graph's going to look like. Okay? Alright. Let's go ahead and let's look at the next example. The next example, ladies and gentlemen, is this one right here. Now, this is a quartic, or it's raised to the 4th power. So we're going to have 4 answers. Let's write down our coefficients. The coefficients are 1, that's a 1, negative 2, negative 11, 12, and 36. Let's find the factors of 36. 36, let's see. I could be using 1 times 36. I can use 2 times 18. 3 times 12. 4 times 9. And 6 times 6. Now, notice that I only put the positive values down, but ladies and gentlemen, it could be the positive or negative of any of these values. Okay? Positive or negative of any of these values. So if the positive doesn't work, try a negative. Let's go ahead and start off here. Again, I don't really remember what the answers were here. I wish I would have wrote them down. Well, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and let's just start off with a 3. Why not? Let's just start off with a 3. So I'm going to drop the 1 down. Right, so 3 times 1 is going to give us 3. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Add these together, you get negative 8. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. You add those together, you're going to get negative 12. And 3 times negative 12 happens to be negative 36. So, I mean, honestly, just guessing, I got the 0 here. Awesome. And notice I put an X here so I can just forget about that. I don't have to look at that anymore. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at negative 12, factors of negative 12, which mean I'm not going to use 36. I'm not going to use 18. I'm not going to use 9. I could still use 6, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 12. Okay? I don't know. Let's try a 2. Let's try 2. Just because, again, I honestly, when you're doing these problems, you won't know the answers just like I don't know the answers. I mean, I made the problems, but I don't know the answers. So 2 times 1 is 2. That's going to give us 3. 3 times 2 is 6. When you subtract this, you'll get a negative 2. 2 times negative 2, well, that's going to give us negative 4. That doesn't work. So that gives us negative 16. Yeah, that didn't work. So we got to try something else now. So let's see. Going to keep dropping down that 1. This time, let's try negative 2. Why not? Again, if the positive doesn't work, try the negative. Negative 2 times 1, that's negative 2. That'll give us negative 1 when you add those together. Negative 2 times negative 1, well, that's 2. When you add these together, you'll get negative 6. Hey, check that out. Negative 2 times negative 6, that's positive 12. That worked out. That's going to give us 0. Excellent. Now remember, this is a quartic. In other words, there's going to be 4 solutions. Right now, we've only found 2 of them. So, let's look at negative 6. Negative 6, we could still use the 6s. We're not going to use the 4 or the 12. So now, the roots we can use have become less. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to retry negative 2. Why not? So can you repeat roots? Yeah. You can repeat roots all the time. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Add these together, you'll get negative 3. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, and look at that. Perfect. That gives us 0. So we got our 3 roots right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're still going to consider 1. 2 is no longer a consideration because 2 is not a factor of negative 3. Neither are the 6's. So we're just going to look at positive 1, negative 1, negative 3, positive 3. Let's go ahead and drop down this 1. Now remember, I want this 3 to become a 0. This negative 3 becomes a 0. To do that, I'm going to need a 3. So 3 times 1, that'll give me 3. And voila, that gives me 0. So our 4 roots are going to be 3, 3, negative 2, and negative 2. So check that out. The 3 is repeated and the negative 2 is repeated. And that could happen. All right. Don't forget, rewind the video, pause it if you need to. We get to example 3, ladies and gentlemen. And example 3 shows us something really unique here. Example number 3, ladies and gentlemen, we have a quartic, but I want you to notice there is no x cubed. There is no x by itself. It has x to the 4th, x squared, and then a constant. So what do we do when we're missing those terms? Well, we're going to put in a filler 0. And I'll show you what that means in a second. First of all, remember there is a 1 in front of this. So we're going to write our coefficients, 1, then the x to the fourth, but there's no x to the third, so we're going to put a 0. Now we have x squared. That's going to be negative 18. All right. There is no x by itself, so we need to put a 0. And then, finally, the 81. Okay. So these are the coefficients I'll be using. Again, there was no x to the third, and there was no x by itself, so we put zeros. Now we need the factors of 81. So looking for our factors of 81, we're going to consider plus or minus 1 times 81. Then you've got 3 times 27. And then you've got 9 times 9. So lucky us, we only have 6 factors, really 12 factors, because you've got to consider the plus and minus of all these. All right. So, let's start off with, I don't know. Let's start off with a 3. Why not? Let's start off with a 3, see how far that gets us. Remember, we want a 0 here, right? That's our whole goal, is that's what we want, the 0. So let's drop this 1 down. That's going to be 1. So 3 times 1 is 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Negative 18 plus 9 is negative 9. 3 times negative 9 is negative 27. 0 plus negative 27 is negative 27. And look at that. 3 times negative 27, that's going to give us negative 81. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just being honest with you. I made up these problems. Pretty much, I'm just guessing. Just like you would be guessing, because you wouldn't know what the roots are. I don't know what the roots are. Excellent. Let me shorten that real quick. Alright. So we tried 3. You could try 3 again. Or you could try a different number. Let's see. But here's the deal. Let's do this. 27 is this last number here. So we're not going to consider 81 anymore. 81's too big. But all the other ones, they're good enough. We could use those. Alright. Let's just try, for the sake of argument, a negative 3. Alright, just let's try negative 3. Why not? So let's drop down this 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. This will give us 0. Then negative 3 times 0, well, that's 0. So we'll get negative 9. And negative 3 times negative 9, oh, that's 27. Worked out perfectly, ladies and gentlemen. That gives us 0. Alright, so now we don't have to look at the 27 anymore because 9 is smaller than 27 and that's not going to be a factor. But we can use 9, 9, 3, and 1, and plus or minus, right? So let's look at these. Let's try 3 again, why not? I mean, you could try 1, you could try 3. I'm just going to try 3 again because looks like we've got to have some numbers in here. So let's drop down that 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. Look at that. That worked out to give me a 0. So when we're doing the next one, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to look at 9 anymore because 3 is this last number and we want a 0 down here. Can y'all just think about what number that would be? Yeah, looks like I'm going to need a negative 3 here. Because when I drop down this 1, negative 3 times 1 will give me negative 3, and that will end up to a 0. So check out these roots. You got positive 3, negative 3, positive 3, and negative 3. And again, you don't even have to do them in this order. You know, if you're working with a partner, you'll notice that they did the positive 3s first and then they did the negative 3s last. Or they started with a negative 3 and then they did the positive 3 and went to negative 3. It's honestly, they work in any order. Okay, there's no specific order you have to do these in. And these are the roots. These are where it crosses the x-axis, and this is how we would figure out how this graph would look like if we were not given the roots. All right. Let's look at our next example, ladies and gentlemen. This one I just threw in there because I had a negative in the front, but you treat it the same way. It treated the same way. So, once again, let's write down the coefficients. It's negative 1, 1, 8, and negative 12. Notice that it was x to the third, x squared, x, and then no x. So nothing was missing. I didn't have to put any filler zeros. All right. So we're going to look at the factors of negative 12. So that's plus or minus 1, plus or minus 12, plus or minus 2, and plus or minus 6, plus or minus 3, and plus or minus 4. So anyway, the positive and negatives of all these numbers. All right, let's try something. Let's start off with 6. See how far 6 gets us. Drop down the negative 1 this time. So negative 1 times, negative 1 times 6 is going to give us negative 6. That'll result in negative 5. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. And then this will end up being negative 22. And you can already tell 6 times negative 22, well, that's going to be negative 132. And that's not going to give us 0. So 6 doesn't work. Alright, so 6 doesn't work. Could be negative 6 though, so you know what, I won't totally cross that out. Alright, so let's drop down that negative 1. Let's try another number. I'll try 3. 3 times negative 1 will give me negative 3. 1 plus negative 3 is negative 2. 3 times negative 2, that's going to give us negative 6. And a negative 6 plus 8, that's going to give me negative 2. And it looks like, I picked another bad one. So that's going to give us negative 6, and that's not going to work out. So, oh no, keep that. So 3 wasn't a factor either. Let's try negative 3. Again, the positive didn't work out. Try the negative. I should have done that with 6. I don't know why I didn't think to do that with 6. So 3 times negative 1. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. That's going to give me 4 when I add them together. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. And that will give me negative 4 when I add those together. Hey, check that out. Negative 3 times negative 4. That's actually 12. So this gives me a 0. Awesome. And this last number is a 4. So I'm not going to look at 3, I'm not going to look at 6, and I'm not going to look at 12. So the only factors I'm going to look at are 1, 2, and 4. Positives and negatives, okay? Alright, let's try this. It's a cubic, so I know I got to have 3. Let's try 2. Why not? 2 looks right. It's right in the middle. So let's drop down that negative 1 in the front. That'll give me negative 2. That will give me 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And look at that. That gives me 0. Perfect. Now we're going to go for our third root. And remember, the last number is 2, so we're not going to look at 4 anymore. So it's either 1 or 2. Let's try 2. You can repeat the same ones. 2 times negative 1, oh, that's negative 2, and that gives me 0. Perfect. So our roots are negative 3, 2, and 2. You know, and I haven't been writing our solutions, but you could just write x equals 3, 2, 2. You say, well, do we have to write the 2 twice? Well, I'm sorry, that's a negative 3. I would, so that you know it's a double root. Okay, that's significant because it's a double root, and remember, things happen differently at double roots. And you're lucky because I didn't do any triple roots on this one, so that's pretty cool. All right, our last example, ladies and gentlemen. Example number 5. Go ahead and pause the video. Try doing it by yourself. And don't be worried that it starts off with a 2. Treat it the same way. See how far you can get. And then unpause the video and see if you got as far as I did. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at the factors of 60. That'll be 1 and 60, plus or minus, of course. 2 and 30. 3 and 20. 4 and 15. 5 and 12. 6 and 10. These are the factors of 60. Alright? So let's write down our coefficients. Notice that nothing's missing. We have x to the 4th, x to the 3rd, x squared, x, and no x. So we'll write down 2, negative 3, negative 42, 23, and 60. Alright, let's try this. Hopefully, you know, you can look at this and, like I said, totally guessing. I'm going to just start off with a negative 5. Just because I've seen 60 and like, well, maybe it's a 5. Drop down to 2. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. That's going to give us negative 13. Negative 5 times 13, that was going to give us, I believe it's 65. 65 subtracting 42, that'll give us 23. Man, that would be awesome if it was here already, right? So negative 5 times 23, well, that's going to give us 150, no, yeah, 115. Negative? Oh, that doesn't look good for us right there, right? Because it doesn't look like it's going to help us at all. Let's finish it off. Let's see. That'll give us 92. That's going to give us negative 92. And 5 times negative 92 is not going to be 60. So negative 5 was a bust for us. Alright, so let's try positive 5. Sometimes, and that's the way I do these synthetic division. If the positive didn't work, I try the negative. If the negative doesn't work, I try the positive. So there's 10. That'll give us 7. 5 times 7 is 35. That will give me negative 7. Now this seems more reasonable. 5 times negative 7 is negative 35. And when you subtract these, you're going to get negative 12. And that works out because 5 times negative 12 is negative 60. Alright? Cool thing about this is that for our next factor, we're not going to look at 10. We're not going to look at 5, 15, 20, 30, 60. Just these that are smaller than 12. That's why this helps us with the synthetic division, because it eliminates, once we do one round, it eliminates the ones that we can't use anymore. Alright, so let's see. Let's try 4. Let's try 4. Drop down to 2. 4 times 2 is 8. That'll give us 15. 4 times 15, that's 60. And yeah, this doesn't look like it's going to get us anywhere. Because 4 times 50, that's going to be over 200. So no, that doesn't work. So let's try negative 4. Negative 4 times 2, that'll give us negative 8. That'll give us negative 1 when we add those together. Multiplying negative 4 times negative 1 gives us positive 4. This will result in negative 3, and that works out because negative 4 times negative 3 will give us positive 12, and guess what? That's 0. Perfect. We only need 2 more factors, and ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't noticed, we'll get rid of 6. We can get rid of 4, so only 1, 2, and 3, positive and negatives. Alright, let's see. I'm going to try, let's try 3. Why not? Let's just try 3. So, drop down the 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And a negative 6 minus 1 is 5. Yeah, that's not going to work out because 3 times 5, that's going to give us 15, and that's not going to work. So, let's try negative 3. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 1. I'm sorry, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. That's going to give us negative 7. Yeah, that's not going to work out either. That's interesting. So, what should we try next? Let's try negative 1. Okay, let's try negative 1. So let me drop down this 2. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. When you add those together, you're going to get negative 3. Hey, look at that worked. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Alright? And then I keep trying, and it's like, well, 3 didn't work. Positive 3 didn't work. 2's not going to work. So I could try 1 again. When you run into this situation, ladies and gentlemen, and nothing seems to work like this, I want you to look at these 2 things down here. And we'll discuss this more in class. But when you're left with 2 numbers like this, the way you can translate this back to an equation is this. You can write 2x minus 3. So 2x minus 3. And then you could set that equal to 0 and solve this. So in other words, add 3 to both sides. 2x equals 3. And then divide by 2. So the fourth root, which we couldn't have found using synthetic division, was 3 over 2. So all the solutions, and if you want to write all the solutions, you would write x equals 5, negative 4, negative 1, and 3 over 2. These are our 4 solutions for this quartic. All right, those were the notes for this section. Please copy them down in your journal. We'll go over some problems in class, and I will explain why and how I can do this thing. Okay, I'll explain that a little bit more in class. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to copy these notes down. Thank you.